I'm Ralph Lundy, and I was lucky enough to have Troy Lesesne play for me and work for me. He made me a great coach when he was a player, and he made me a great coach when he was my assistant. And now he is the coach of New Mexico United USL Pro Team. And his first year was sensational. He has worked so hard at every level to be where he is now. He has so much experience for a relatively young fella. And everybody in our club, coaches, players, parents, need to really listen to what it took for Troy, who has amazing talents, all-American player, but the greatest talent of all was that he loved the game and loves the game, and he wanted to work. And for Troy, working in the game was what he loved. So here we go, Troy. So let's talk about your beginnings, because you were first of all, you had a dad and mom that absolutely supported you every minute. Two of the greatest people. Your dad, if I went to war, I'd be taking your dad with me.
Me too.
Because he's the real deal. So just tell me about your young days at Casey, South Carolina, playing.
Yeah, I mean, my parents, like you said, one, they supported me in every endeavor that I got into, and certainly my passion was soccer. That was one of the things that just stuck with me. I started playing at about the age of 4 or 5. So, and they were all about it. I think they were all about it well ahead of where most parents were, because in Casey, West Columbia, it was American football and baseball for the most part. So playing soccer was something different. And then, I talked about this with a lot of people, but Kevin and Cal Heisey were way, way ahead of their time in the Casey, West Columbia area. Those are two of the probably most impactful mentors that I've had in my life. Basically from about the age of, 7 or 8, I knew Kevin and Kyle. They coached at Brooklyn Casey High School. And then I joined their club after playing in some of the youth recreational systems around the Columbia area. I joined their club, Congaree Rapid, at 9 years old. So from 9 years old, Kevin also was my high school coach. From 9 to 17, those two guys influenced me in so many positive ways. And, from a coaching standpoint, definitely the technical focus for them was king. I mean, that was everything. They wanted to make sure that we had and developed a level of comfort on the ball first and foremost. So I really had a good foundation, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 with them. They came to your camps. I remember coming to your camps with, my club team and my junior varsity team, starting in 1995, 1996 at Presbyterian College. We would go to other camps too, Mark Burson, but I felt like those two guys were always trying to figure out ways to push us in different environments. And then beyond all of that, it was really what they instilled about that level of hard work that you mentioned. I think those guys shaped me. My parents shaped me in that mold that whatever you want out of this life, you have to go and work harder than anyone else to get it. And man, I was exchanging messages with them this morning, just sending them some pictures from my Congaree Rapids days. And yeah, I love those guys so much. And that's where it all started for me in the game.
Well, you were fortunate to be associated with two of the hardest working, greatest soccer people that I've ever known in my life. They are everything you said, Troy. I respect those two guys so much. And man, you are just exactly like them. Troy would play from sun up to sundown. Had to absolutely make him leave a session, or Troy, can we turn out the lights, Troy? It's time to go home. And the results were Troy was an All-American, and he was a leader, and he was tremendous in high school club teams, and certainly at the College of Charleston. And then our club was lucky enough to have him as a coach. He became an assistant coach with me, and he coached teams in our club. And he always took a group of players and got everything out of them because he would work and he put everything into his players. So tell me about your coaching days in our club.
Yeah, it started. So my coaching started really a little bit before coaching at Mount Pleasant and the College of Charleston. It was coaching at Kevin and Kyle Heisey's summer camps, and then at your summer camps. So not only would I be a player for you and demo for you and do those types of things as a college player, but I thought it was kind of cool. You also put a lot of responsibility on us as players to lead groups that we were with and coach them at night during a lot of the games, which is that's what opened my eyes to trying to connect with younger players and try to give them some advice through my experiences as a player. I didn't have any foundation for what it meant to coach, but that was how it started. And then beyond that, I was a volunteer for you for the first 2 years. And I think that's important for all the coaches to know that it's really difficult to make this a career, because we all know it's just financially, it's hard to figure out creative ways to stay in the game. But I volunteered for you for 2 years, and you figured out a way between my pay at the Battery and camps to make it work for me. And, coach, that third season, man, that's when I started to get paid the big bucks. You fought really hard for, I think, a $7,500 stipend from the College of Charleston, and I made it, man. I had finally gotten paid from the College of Charleston. But I think what stuck out to me was how committed you were to seeing me stay in the game, because you knew that I could connect on a real human level with people. And I think that's how it started with me is with all those teams at Mount Pleasant, have the U10, U12s, we each had 3 teams, and just the amount of kids that we were able to influence and try to, make them as passionate about the game as we were. And that's exactly what Kevin and Kyle and yourself did for me. And that's our first job as coaches. So that's what's amazing about this game, is that then when you connect with people so many years later, that's what you come back to. That's what your relationship's about, is how much energy you put into them. So I miss those days in a lot of ways. That was the starting point.
So I will tell everybody, Troy always wanted to train and play. And what he did was he developed himself as a player with so much skill. And how tall are you, Troy?
Coach, that's impolite to ask that on this podcast, but I'll 5'7" on a good day.
With your high heels on. Okay. Troy didn't care. What he said was, I have skill and I can do things, and I can attack down the left flank, and I can put balls in, unbelievable gifts for any number 9. I'm clever. I can do people, meaning I can dribble them. And Troy had the ability to dribble people and lay the ball off when he should and keep the ball when he should. But tell me about your skill development, because in our club, I believe that attitude is the most important thing. And we've talked about that. And we've talked about your attitude. And then I believe you work on fitness with the ball. But tell me about you and the ball, you personally, as your growth as a player developed.
Yeah, I think you asked me a really good question earlier. You asked, where did you play? Did you have an area that you would go and just play pickup? And the answer was just all of the friends that I had, because of the culture and environment I think that we were brought up in with Kevin and Kyle Heisey. As many times as we could get in somebody's backyard and play, 1v1, 2v2, 1v2, 1v3, just keeping the ball away from 2-3 defenders. That's how it started. And I think that's really important towards what my technical development was as a young player. And then beyond that, I mean, any exercise that was presented to me at any training session or any camp I went to, if I could just go out and try to make it perfect it as best that I could, that's what I was about. I would take any little bit of information that I would get from any of those types of camps or training sessions or, games that I would go to around the Columbia area and try to apply it. And I think that that's myself with the ball by myself. That's how it started. I didn't have someone telling me to do it. It just was natural or organic for me and my friends to go and do that ourselves. And it's really, I think, full circle for where we are right now for young players. That's the only choice they have right now. So if this was that time, if I was going through what we're going through now with this pandemic, I mean, it would be hard to get me to do these virtual classes in school because I'd want to just be outside and be with a ball, knocking it against the wall, just trying different things for hours at a time. So that was my mentality and how I got a foundation from a technical side.
I was told yesterday that when a player reaches 14, you ought to not worry about technical training, and you should just focus everything tactically. And I disagreed. And I told this person, if you lived it the way I lived it, you'd know better. You'd never say that. And you had a special gang group of fellow teammates at College of Charleston. So we trained hard, but then you guys went and did your own things. Maybe I helped you get some ideas, but tell these young players about, so you were 19, you were 20, you were 21, 18, 19, 20. Tell them what you did in your free time at the College of Charleston.
Yeah, I mean, Tam will tell you too, and maybe even it funneled down to TK. I see TK on the call. But if training was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we were indoor from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. before classes, if I didn't have a 10 o'clock class, then the next hour and a half was trying to challenge Tam to some sort of juggling competition in the racquetball courts. And I know you implement the technical side of the game, and that's something that you do better than anybody else. I don't think it stops at any age. I mean, that was my college years, and then even as an assistant coach, I would try to challenge some of the players as well, just because it meant a lot to me. But I told you this the other day on the phone. The technical aspect, it may be a little bit different about the demands, but I told you, New Mexico United, every training session, some form or fashion is centered around the technical aspect of the game for 15, 20 minutes. And it has to be. And it's obviously, it might be a little more positional specific for them, but before we get into our session, and then a lot of times the functional training that we outline for them after training is strictly technical in a lot of ways. Some of it's functional and position specific for sure, but it's all centered around a player with the ball, working on trying to be the best and most comfortable that they can be.
How about the dance studio and Hollywood?
Yeah, that's embarrassing, but if anybody knows Ben Hollingsworth, then you know that Ben Hollingsworth likes to look at himself in the mirror. So he's a little narcissistic that way. He himself and a couple other teammates, whenever I played at the College of Charleston, we would go up into the ballet studio, which we got kicked out of, and we'd have 2v2 tournaments because it was just like a great space for futsal. But again, surrounded by mirrors, and Ben liked to show off his muscles and just look at himself while training. So we had to go in there. But again, that was our culture, though. We just loved it. We just figured out any kind of creative, innovative way we could to be around one another and challenge one another and be on the ball.
And the 2v2 tournaments in the racquetball courts.
Those were heated. Those were you wanted to continue to move up. If you were on court one, you wanted to stay there. And those were some awful smells coming from the racquetball courts at that time, because people were they were going after it 30, 45 minutes at a time, just nonstop 2v2 competitions that you would put on. But again, that was that was for us. That's a technical training in a lot of ways, with some tactics involved, by the way. Trying to figure out how to make you and your teammate beat another team.
So Troy would play. He'd play. And during that period, he had great teammates that had the same attitude. And several of them from Mount Pleasant. Ben Hollingsworth is a product of our soccer club. And I think we had some great times. We had some great times against the Gamecocks, I think, didn't we?
We had a couple moments, a couple very good moments.
And Troy scored a great goal. Their goalkeeper actually is the starting keeper for Atlanta United and has been the starting keeper for the United States. And if I'm not mistaken, on a Wednesday night, you scored on him. I think you megged him, didn't you?
I didn't meg Brad Gazan. That was another goal that I scored. But Brad Gazan scored against him my senior year. He was a sophomore. And it was a free kick that, if I'm perfectly honest, I just mishit. And luckily, it found its way in the back of the net. But did score a goal against him. And he's had a nice career. Let's say that. Phenomenal.
He
career.
has. He is an absolute dedicated professional. But Troy's teams, that period, I think we scored 8 goals against him. And Troy had 1. That's right? Or did you have another?
No, that's right. That's right.
And what I want to tell players is, young players, is Troy would not accept anything but excellence from himself. If he couldn't do it, then he'd work on it, and he'd work on it, and he'd work on it. And he took his position. You talked about functional training. He took the skills needed for his position and worked on it and became so doggone good on that left flank, creating attacks. And it was unbelievable. Actually, one night we beat the Gamecocks 3-0. That was your team, right?
That was my senior year, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, regular.
And one of our great soccer people in Charleston, one of the greatest, is a guy named Rich Lloyd. And Rich Lloyd told me that was the best game he'd ever seen a college soccer team play. And this attitude that Troy and his teammates had was, we're going to play. We're going to play. We're going to play in a dance studio. We're going to play in the upstairs gym, the downstairs gym, the racquetball courts, anywhere, everywhere. And they loved it, and they enjoyed it. And that class has gone on to do great things, as exemplified by Troy. So tell me about moving up the coaching ladder.
Yeah, so it started 9 seasons. So I was with you for 9 seasons after playing for you for 4 seasons. And I was playing at the Charleston Battery in 2005 and 2006. So then I was volunteering my first 2 seasons with you as an assistant coach. And I quickly realized, and Coach Augie helped me realize, that probably my time was coming to an end as a professional player, which is all right. And man, I'm actually thankful for that now, for him helping me realize that a little bit sooner than maybe most. I knew, though, it was my second season playing with the Battery, and Augie signed Stevie Armstrong, who everybody probably knows in town. When I trained with Stevie for the first time and I saw him and his abilities, and how professional he was, I knew it was going to be a difficult time for me. But again, I think that has a lot to do with my coaching, because I know who I am and I know who I'm not. I knew pretty quickly that if I enjoyed those 2 seasons with you volunteering at the same time as playing with the Battery. So I knew that could be a career choice for me, that I could start to pivot and put more time and energy into that if I wasn't going to be, a top professional player. And I just knew my ceiling. That was the reality of it. So then after those 2 seasons at the Battery, like I said earlier, you were able to get a little bit of a salary for me at the College of Charleston. You kept paying me, really graciously through camps. And then I was working at Mount Pleasant Soccer Club. So just like I was a player coach and put so many hours into playing and trying to hone my craft that way. That's what I did as a coach. I tried to be on the field as much as possible. You think about the days of my last season coaching with you in 13. That was Tam's, I think, senior season. It started for you and me on 3 days of the week. For total football, it started at 5:30 in the morning. We would go 5:30 in the morning till 8 in the morning roughly, whenever all the kids were gone. 8 in the morning, we'd go into the office. We'd be in the office for a little bit, go back out, train the College of Charleston from 2 to 4. And then at 5 o'clock, I was going and training. I think at that time it was the Battery Development Academy team. Johnny Amon and some of these players now that are really top professional players. Grayson Barber's doing great. He's at Clemson right now. So you think about the amount of hours, it's the same thing, right? For the way that I took my approach for playing is the way I did for coaching. And so those 9 seasons were, I think you created an opportunity for me to, and all the teams that I work with at Mount Pleasant, for me to find my voice and really figure out who I wanted to be as a coach. And then a great opportunity surfaced with the Charleston Battery and with Augie and the Vancouver Whitecaps. And that was a really difficult decision for me, as you know, to go away from the College of Charleston and the college game. I felt like I could, I wanted to coach at the professional level, and I wanted to push as far as I could go in the game. And it was a new challenge. So I started working that season in 2014 with the Battery and the Vancouver Whitecaps. And I think it just opened my eyes to what my skill set was, that it could translate from the college level to the professional level, and that I could do well at that level also. Then an opportunity came up with the Charlotte Independents and Mike Jeffries. So from the Battery, I went to the Independents for 4 seasons and had just all those experiences of being with you and being with Augie, Mike Jeffries. These are people that are just good human beings first and foremost, and then really, really sharp minds in the game. That at that stage, after working 4 years with Mike Jeffries, and a lot of people telling me no, by the way, I tried to interview for college jobs during that time. I tried to interview for head coaching professional jobs. A lot of no's during that time. And finally, I had a great interview with a guy named Peter Trevisani, who is our owner with New Mexico United. And I think it changed my life in a lot of ways. Finally, think about that was 15 years as an assistant coach, just grinding it out, trying to be a head coach. And here we are. Unfortunately, here we are experiencing COVID right now. But last year, that was one of the best experiences that I've had coaching at New Mexico United. Incredible.
So you average how many fans for each home game?
We were tops in the league last year. We were right at 13,000, and we had one game a little over 15,000 versus San Antonio on Cinco de Mayo.
And you made the playoffs, which is almost unheard of for a first-year team.
You
also
go ahead. Sorry.
You also did so well in the U.S. Open Cup, didn't you?
Yeah, that was. I think that for a first-year club, like you said, for us to make that run, it just gave us so much credibility, because it's hard for fans of a new club that haven't had a pro team here in the state before to really know what the level is. So then when you play teams like Colorado Rapids and beat them in penalties, and then you go to FC Dallas and beat FC Dallas in regulation, and then you go to Minnesota United, and let's not talk about Minnesota United. Minnesota United was we lost 6-1 that game, Coach. But that was the quarterfinals of the Open Cup, so we were one of the last 8 and this competition in our first year. So I think it set the tone for us and who we wanted to be as a club. And like you said, we made the playoffs, which is another great achievement. So hopefully when we get the season back started again, we can build on that.
We should mention that Minnesota United, is that what they're called? Minnesota United?
That is what they're called, yeah.
Yeah, they had 2 coaches that used to coach in our club, didn't they?
Mark Watson and Ian Fuller, but also played at the Battery.
Played and coached in our club. I hope the players, the young players, listen to this and understand the great opportunity. Troy, I want to go back a couple steps. You talked about you and I and Tam and David Jordan, and I want to just take a second to say my prayers are always with the Dennis family, because Chuck Dennis was instrumental, really the real energy in starting this total football training. And what a great man he was, and I miss him. So Troy, David Jordan last week told me, he said, Coach, do you know from the very start till the last session we ever did with total football, the kids who came and got there before 6 o'clock in the morning, and all of us trained them, do you know every one of them became excellent soccer players. So just briefly, well, it was really you and Chuck Dennis and David that had the idea about that.
Yeah, I think, I talked a lot about, and you talked a lot about, as a youth player, where did I seek out the ability to go and train? So we just wanted, I think all of us wanted the same thing for these younger players, which is to give them more opportunities to have success, not just to be limited to, and also to show them that our level of passion, waking up that early, hopefully that would filter to them and they start doing it on their own in a lot of ways, because we get so wrapped up in our scheduling and trying to, train 3 days a week. That's not enough. So in order for us to take the types of steps we need to as a country, obviously we felt like that was another avenue for all these players who had the same appetite, that they were the ones getting up just as early as we were getting up. I mean, they were showing up early and they were showing up consistently. And I just think it's a great reflection of what soccer is, what it means in Charleston. I think what it means in Charleston is it's part of the culture there. It's part of the environment there, and people want to try to be the best there. And that's what I think a lot about everyone that's involved in the club and who's been involved in the club. There's a level of excellence, but we have to keep working at it every day. You never get to a point where you've made it by any means.
And we measured that against what we know, what I've seen in Brazil and in Mexico on my trips there. And we really wanted to give each kid 1,000 touches before breakfast. And we were lucky enough to have 2 gyms, and one gym had great cinder block walls. And, Troy was in heaven because Troy loved to be on the ball. So the players who are listening, if you think that 3 or 4 training sessions a week is enough, it's not enough. If you really want to do the best for yourself in this game, then you get on the ball like Troy did growing up, like Troy did as a college player and a pro player and as a coach. And the results speak for themselves. We could name the players who were there all the time, and their game, they're different players because they have skill. Troy is the perfect example, I'll tell you. His senior year, he was so magic. He was so clever. He was so smart, and he was so skillful. But you've talked several times about culture. I don't know if the players really know what that means.
Yeah, you and I haven't talked about this. I mean, what our culture is at New Mexico United, for instance, is in large part due to what my experiences have been, but then also in large parts of what I feel like resonates with the state of New Mexico and the city of Albuquerque. And it's hard work, humility, and diligence. Those are the three attributes of our ethos that I demand of the players, that we demand of ourselves as staff, front office, our owner. And it sounds simple, but I think if you have those 3 attributes that you match up to every day, not 2 out of 3, not 1 out of 3, not every other day. And you have a level of accountability to one another within an organization, and that's culture. That's exactly what culture is. And there's no gray area. You're either matching up with and understanding what hard work means and what humility and diligence mean exactly. Those are great words, but hard work, as we define it, is not being outworked by anyone, by your opponent, by any other staff. And that's what we try to measure up to. Humility is about reciprocal relationships. It's about being genuine. It's again about accountability and being honest with yourself. And then the diligence aspect is, we keep talking about it ad nauseum, but it really is, it's about the details. And the details for players is trying to figure out, when their coach isn't telling them activities to do, how can they be diligent about a routine that works for them to improve themselves. For coaches, the diligence is, how do they prepare individual players, small groups, their team? How do they figure out creative ways right now to put something forward to their group of players that makes them think, beyond just them with the ball. I did a great assignment with our team, and I think they enjoyed it. But what's up, TJ? I see TJ there. I did this assignment, coach, with our team the other day. I made them go back and watch the 2010 Barcelona-Real Madrid game, 5-0 Barcelona. This is where, and that's like the heyday, right, of Xavi and Iniesta and Busquets. I made them watch that whole game, and they had to pick out a couple principles of play that we implement in our team and show where Barcelona was highlighting those principles of play. And that to me, that's where the game changed for me as a coach, was watching that team play, because you just recognized there was that high degree of technical skill, but then there was this high degree of, it was Messi's, like, that was the epitome of Messi then, because not only was he phenomenal on the ball, but he also, the way that they worked defensively, the way that they were committed to one another, and the way that they modeled themselves after those 3 words that I believe, in our culture, it's all about hard work, humility, and diligence. But that was an assignment that's the diligence aspect. I think as a coach, you have to figure out different buttons to push at different times. And now especially, you have to really think about that.
Well, I want everybody to know, as a coach, Troy put everything he could into helping players grow. Now, sometimes that was putting his arm around them, and sometimes that was chewing them out for not being diligent. But he was all in for his players, always all in. And he made a difference in their lives. And I'll tell you, just to show you how smart he is, he married the most wonderful, beautiful, sweet soccer player that ever played at college at Charleston. And I'll tell you, you got salesman of the century when you talked Amanda into marrying you. And that girl could play soccer too, buddy.
Coach, hard work, humility, diligence. That's what you have to, that's what I had to display every day. I still do every day to win her over. So,
well, just so I can really embarrass you, you also wrote some nice poetry to her too, didn't you?
That's diligence, man. I know I don't have the looks, coach. All right. So
No, don't go there. All the girls, that cute Troy Lesesne. But I'll tell you, buddy, that was the best day of your life when you got a hold of Amanda. What a girl.
100%. Yeah, she's
100%.
And she also, I think it's important, and I point this out, I don't think I would have been coaching without her, meaning it is difficult to figure out a way financially to make it work. And I really, really am thankful because she just kills it in her career. So she allowed me, I think, to prolong the ability to keep chasing my dream. And I mean, she supports our family in a lot of different ways. She's incredible.
She is incredible. That's for sure. And that just shows you how brilliant you are.
That's right.
Absolutely. Now, Matt Palmer is organizing this call, and Tam is on the call. And Matt, I don't know that, or I'm sure Tam's got some things he'd love to share with Troy or questions to ask him.
There a translator for Tam to ask questions?
Hey,
Speak slow.
I knew that
I've
was
been
coming.
with. There it comes. Go
I
ahead,
knew that was
Tam.
coming.
Tam, I want you. I mean, you played for Troy, and you've got a perspective. So I would like you to just have some interaction with Troy now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's good to hear, obviously, Troy's experience because we've witnessed it firsthand. Obviously, I played for him, and you can see the dedication that he put in as a coach for me personally, and for the team. So it's just good to hear. I have got one question, Troy, and I don't think coach has asked it yet, but just for obviously the players listening, how did your youth career affect the way that your life is now? Like, do you go back to the days and reflect on it and see how it helped you for who you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. All the relationships that I have and the people that I trust, I feel like are still in my network, and they hold me accountable. And I'm just such a big proponent of genuine reciprocal relationships that I'm really, really fortunate to have, yourself. We catch up all the time, just random texts, random, message here and there. And
Right.
that's what it's all about from a playing standpoint as well as a coaching standpoint, is that you're just, and now more than ever, if you're not putting that as a foundational piece to the way you play and interact with people, the way that you coach and interact with people, you might have a void right now for the type of connections in your life. And we need these connections now more than ever. But I also, back to just the way that I try to shape things for my players now, that's how things were shaped for me.
Right.
Coach Heisey was, he was joking with me this morning because I was saying I developed some pretty thick skin because of him. And I mean, he would hold me accountable as a polite way in a lot of different ways. And the people that were backing him up immediately were my teammates and my parents. There wasn't ever a second question of his guidance because I think everyone knew that he was looking out for the benefit of me and any other player. And that's
Right.
what I think parents and players need to understand too, is the amount of time that all of us are spending with them. It is selfish in some regard because I love giving out energy to players, but it's also, we're giving a lot out. We don't have agendas. We're just trying to make each and every player as good as we can.
Right.
So I do think that my experience as a youth player certainly shaped everything that I'm doing now.
Right. No, I appreciate that. I think everybody that is coaching now as well, the coaches that are in the club are the same way. So I just wanted to hear your perspective on it. One last question just before I pass it to Matt and see. Obviously, you've been through as a player. You went from the youth game to the college game to the pro game, and then as a coach, you went from the youth game to the college game to the pro game. What differences do you see more as a coach than you did before you were a player? From the youth game to the college game to the pro game, what's the biggest differences?
Differences in terms of
just anything. It could be dedication, it could be soccer wise, it could be the way they live their life in general.
I think the level of being relentless, their individual goals, players' individual goals every single day is a big difference when you start to go from youth to college to pro, because you're just continually, you're separating this talent pool of players that are truly committed or not. Same thing with coaches. Over time, you can't hide. You can't run away. You can't hide from what you're putting into something. At some point, you'll get found out. And I feel that way every day as a professional coach now. Somebody out there is doing something better than I am, but I have to figure out a way to do more than them, be better than them, and it doesn't stop. That's the exhausting part of it. Same thing for players. You want to be a professional player, there's steps every day to take towards that goal. the steps are, to be the best player in your team. Obviously then goals of trying to make the level of a team. Maybe it's a developmental academy. Maybe it's, a college team that you want to try to make, but there's always something else to do. And that's the difference. See how committed my players are here at the professional level. They're just towards their goal. And
Right.
it's a common goal for the team every day too.
Right. No, I appreciate it, because obviously you've went through all stages as a player and as a coach, so you've saw firsthand. Obviously, we don't want to regret anything, but I think when you look back, there's things that you would have probably done different to try and be the best. So I just wanted to get your feel on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Matt's got any question. I just want to say before I go, I appreciated everything that Troy did for me at the college, and he's continuing to do for a lot of players. Obviously at the youth level, the college level, and the pro level, and obviously Coach being on the call as well. They're two of my biggest mentors. So to have the two of you in the same call for other people to hear it, I really appreciate you taking the time to do that, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Appreciate you, man.
Troy, did you notice how careful Tam was speaking?
He had a script, Coach. He was ready, man.
Hey, I understood every word he said. That is super.
You told me yesterday, Coach, that you were going to translate for me.
Yeah.
You got questions there, Coach Palmer?
Yeah. First off, Troy, thank you so much for making this time and being here with us today. I kind of feel like we should defer to Christy and see what Christy has. So, Christy, it's time
She's
to come
the first person that hired me, actually.
That's right. Yes.
I work for Mount Pleasant Soccer Club. That's right.
Aging me. Yeah, I remember when you and that group of people, Jamie and Sage and everybody, I felt like you guys were so young, and now you guys are all just as old as me.
Thank you, Christy.
Yes, I brought TJ over here because you don't age, actually. I told me to come look at you in the screen. You don't age.
Not true.
I think sharing your experience with some of the kids in Mount Pleasant, what you saw, because I do think we have a long history and culture in Mount Pleasant of good soccer and good staff, and that's something we're all really working hard to keep going. And just what your experience was coaching with the club. That was one of your first, you obviously were playing at the Battery and helping coach. And I'm trying to think of some of those boys. Didn't you have Allardyce? Wasn't he one of the first kids? That group of boys? Andrew Davis?
With Eric Fornell.
Yeah.
Zach Epstein. Man, it was a crew, but a very good team.
He had a good group.
That's right. And then it was Brady Allardyce and Wyatt Ball and that whole crop of players.
You had some good players.
The next crop was that last group I worked with, which was Johnny Amon and Alex Dennis. A lot of different players on that team as well. So those are special times.
Do you feel like, what made, did you see in that environment, what the culture of Mount Pleasant, obviously it's something we work towards. I think you helped us work, build that, and something that, we have TK on here. Obviously Shiloh's been in the mix for a while, Robbie, I don't know who else is on here, but, we have we're a small community, yet we're a rich soccer community. And that's something that, Coach helped build over the years. And that, now I'm one of the people that's been here the longest with David Jordan as well. Is there anything that you feel like you're seeing that change? You're getting kids coming out of college to play for you, and what's changing, or what's something that, as young coaches on this call and older coaches that we can be doing to kind of keep that going? I feel like that's kind of a struggle lately. I think the kids are changing. I'm sure you're seeing that too.
Yeah, I think our sport, this is probably a longer question or answer that I would give. And it's, none of us have the answer, but it's something that if we're parents or if we're coaches or those that are hold young people accountable, especially in Mount Pleasant, because it's just different here in New Mexico and Albuquerque. I think the level of influence in Mount Pleasant is so high that sometimes can be a deterrent towards a player's hunger to develop. And that comes down to individuals, and that comes down to, I think, parenting to push through that. And I don't know if that's a challenge, now. Not, I'm sure it is, but that there's players though that this is everything to them. And this is how they're going to make. You talk to Tam. Tam literally, he had an education because of the game. And that's how he started his life and how he's starting his career beyond what he grew up with in Scotland. And there's more players that use this game as a vehicle towards being able to accomplish what they want, regardless of the barriers and regardless of where they are financially right now. And that's the mentality that I think we're responsible for instilling. No matter what your situation, you can't help what your situation is, whether you have money or don't have money that you're coming from. But if whoever it is that we take in to be able to play this game and coach them, I think that's our responsibility to make sure that they have a mentality that allows them to achieve what they want to achieve. And we set the example for that every day.
Yeah, I think accountability. Yeah, I think that's something as a coach, and I think that's important for the kids to hear too, is they need to be held accountable by, the coaches, by parents, by teachers. And to me, that's a huge obstacle that I think a lot of us are facing. Even just right now with what's going on with this pandemic, is holding the kids accountable at home for their schoolwork and getting them outside and trying to stay in a routine right now, like we all are trying to do, obviously. What about, I guess, maybe just for like the players who are going to listen? Do you have any advice about the kids? All the kids, they come to tryouts in May and they want to make the top team. That's we all deal with it. It's almost that time of the year again. Hopefully we're going to be back out there, in the near future. But any advice for you, for somebody who's played at a high level, coached at a high level, is coaching at a high level, for the kids who that's, their dream and that's their passion, and they want to get that scholarship like a lot of people on this call, and they're getting their education and they have dreams of even going beyond that?
It kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of the stuff that I've talked about today. And I don't say this, in a dismissive way. I ask this a lot to the kids. We just started a program called the High Performance Program this past year, where players, they don't have to pay. So it's not a pay to play model, which is great. But like any player, every player has a goal of some sort, and they want stuff. They want it. And ask every player that comes into our high performance program immediately, I'm like, do you think that you deserve this, or do you feel like you need to earn this? And clearly everyone will say they feel like they need to earn it, but what does that truly mean? And that goes back to accountability. I think players need to understand they have to earn every single thing that is nothing's going to be given to them. And that's just a life lesson that I hope that players can understand, the value of that message, because we all hear it, we've all heard it before, but if you really want something, then you have to go earn it, because everybody can say they want something. It's a matter of you putting in the time and effort to achieve it.
Oh, that's good. I think that kids need to hear that. Thank you. It's great to see your face.
Miss you, Chrissy.
All right, Parm, you're up. Or anybody else? Or left. He had to walk his dog.
Troy, I really appreciate you giving time to our club and our coaches and our kids. It is my hope to have you in Mount Pleasant so you can do a coaches clinic and a kids clinic. As soon as we can get it arranged, that would be so good. And coaches, we may do it at 6 a.m. in the morning in a gym. So just get ready. I know the players will be there.
I'm up for it.
Troy, I'm lucky enough to be Shiloh Tisdale's assistant coach. And these kids are 10 years old. And guess what, Troy? They want to play. They want to play in a gym, in a backyard, in a cul-de-sac. And if we lead them and give them the opportunities, then kids are the same. But it's up to us.
That's right. That's because they
get them out there and play.
they have Shiloh as their head coach. And
That's right.
Shiloh doesn't mess around. So
Does not mess around. So these poor kids, now think about this. They're subject to Shiloh and to me. Oh my gosh. We might add you on the staff, and we'll really have these kids playing about 22 hours a day. But they love it. They love it.
They're not ready for that, Coach. You and Shiloh is plenty, believe me.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And as usual, you're always ready to help people.
Yeah,
and
man.
you're always ready to give to people. And that's what makes you so special. So you keep it up, buddy.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you,
God
Coach.
bless you and Amanda.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Troy.
Thank you, Troy.
Take care. See ya.
Thank you, mate.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Troy. See you.
Thanks, Troy.